Hi everyone, Charles from The Food People here. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. We're back again for the third episode in our 12-part series, looking at the longer-term shifts in food and drink as a result of COVID-19 through the lens of our annual trends framework. In this episode, I'd like to look at the effects of COVID-19 through the lens of the megatrend pragmatism rules. We're living in extraordinary times. The health of both people and planet are under pressure, and never has there been a greater need to take a pragmatic view of the world of food and drink, what's wrong and what needs to be fixed. Let's start with waste not. As you can imagine, food waste has never been such a hot topic. However, due to the sudden global pandemic we're currently going through, there has been an immediate and extreme impact on food supply chains. There have been so many fresh suppliers lose their customer base overnight, and with the abrupt closures of restaurants, bars and cafes, enormous amounts of perishable food went to waste. However, unwanted and leftover food was a huge problem long before COVID-19. There is approximately 100,000 tonnes of edible food that goes uneaten in the UK, and estimates suggest that about a third of the world's food actually goes to waste at a holistic level. So the need to combat the throwaway culture has never been stronger, and as we're faced with a weakened food supply chain and the looming threat of global recession, not just at an industrial level, but also in consumers' homes too. Cautious consumers are now taking much more of an interest in what they're throwing away and what can be done to reduce waste and cost to make money go further. As consumers become more budget conscious, the treat yourself mantra is likely to give way to a buy what you need, not what you want, which leads into greater levels of meal planning, again, against the price and waste agenda. There's been a huge push on social media for home cooks to use many more of the peelings, the overripe fruit, and the end slices of loaves of bread as an example. People are also being encouraged to shop and eat seasonally and locally in the crusade to reduce food waste, as well as promoting self-sufficient food supply chains. We'd also expect that as and when the out-of-home sector re-emerges from lockdown, that menus and dining options will be shorter, again to help mitigate waste. We're also rediscovering the freezer. For years, there's been a perception that the frozen food aisle in retail is less appealing, perhaps unfashionable and unhealthy. However, over recent years, through packaging revolution, product proposition and innovation and development, its old misconceptions are being shaken off, propelled in this instance by what's happened with the global pandemic. In addition to this, frozen food has also been linked with a number of very positive associations, such as health, eco-friendliness, quality, innovation and variety. Frozen food is actually starting to rival the fresh counter or parts of the store as the numbers are beginning to back that up. When lockdown measures were introduced all over the UK, bulk buying mania started. However, it wasn't just pasta, tin foods and loo rolls that were sold out. Freezers were also snapped up as well. Consumers were looking for alternative ways to store food at home, and the freezer was one of those top choices. Not just to have a food stock as a contingency in place, but also batch cooking was on the up, as well as freezing fruits and vegetables for smoothies and leftover produce into soup. So we expect to see the appeal of frozen foods to remain, with its versatility, stability and relative sterility, as well as the previously mentioned attributes of health, quality and innovation. The need to plan meals forward and have contingency options will remain as a key part of the consumer psyche into the future. Also expect a growth in the relevance of premium and global frozen foods and ingredients. In many cases actually perform better in frozen formats, such as dim sum or gyoza are great examples of that. As our work patterns change, there is likely to be an opportunity for frozen foods to fit into the non-traditional day parts as well. So look out for those opportunities. We're not just rediscovering the freezer, but also the store cupboard. Even before the news that COVID-19 was a world pandemic and shoppers were sent into bulk buying frenzy, dry goods such as pasta, beans and pulses were already growing in consumer interest for a number of reasons. Environmental concerns were a significant factor as dry foods last longer on shelves, which of course helps with reducing food spoilage and waste. Tinned fish has also contributed to the rediscovery of our store cupboards. We're not just talking about tuna and brine here. The trend has also been cemented by restaurants and wine bars as they began to serve Spanish-style conservas, which were simple but, of course, oh so delicious. As consumers rely more and more on their pantries and store cupboards, the perception that food has to be farm fresh or expensive to be good is well on the way to being out of the window. As well as being stable and therefore convenient, the access price points will favour those whose food spend capacity is reduced as a result of the COVID-19 led recession. We expect to see more premium pantry ingredients, as well as the rediscovery of one pot standbys and new ways with store cupboard staples as consumers explore the benefits of this new old part of the store. There has also been an increase in the popularity of pickling, fermented, gourmet instant noodles, and global ingredients such as tahini and miso, to name just two. Then we have seasonality, which we've referred to in a number of the previous episodes. It's the natural evolution of farm to table and seasonal eating that makes the most of ingredients throughout each season, and appreciated that the flavour and texture of fruits and vegetables evolve over time and over seasons. For instance, potatoes will taste differently in June versus August. Young almonds in their green, soft, unripe glory are completely different from the mature, harder shell counterparts. In addition, we expect to see conversation emerge that links seasonality to changing flavour. Historically, customers may have had the expectation that menus and food ranges should remain constant throughout seasons. However, in recent times, it's been acceptable, definitely in the case of the out-of-home and the more premium channels within out-of-home, to have some ingredients and dishes for only a few days or weeks at a time. And this is definitely something that will become ever more common at a time when eating locally and seasonally has a renewed relevance, and whilst farms are increasingly delivering fresh ingredients and products directly to the consumer. Then we have price sensitivity. As there is so much economic uncertainty at the moment, it's inevitable that we will see change and evolution in consumer spending patterns over the coming months. Reports suggest that there will be a certain rise in food commodity prices for many reasons, alongside labour shortages, which have been a topic in the news of late. There is also import, export, supply chain issues, and of course social distancing measures that all have an impact on the cost of goods and the cost of food. Social distancing has become the new normal in our lives during the pandemic. However, it's also affected business in a different way. They're having to adopt to an increasing rise in online shopping and the associated delivery costs, barriers in stores, in addition to very visible hygiene and cleaning costs. On the other hand, with the threat of a looming recession, consumers are in no mood for the cost of food and, of course, other daily essentials to increase. There is, however, an opportunity in helping consumers to manage the available spend that they do have for food and drink, in supporting in a pragmatic way to meet their needs that go beyond traditional promotional mechanics, thinking about budget, spend, meal calculators, or indeed bundling food together. So a bundle of food would serve so many people for a fixed cost. All are possible opportunities for the future. So in this article, we've highlighted the shifts that are likely to persist post-pandemic through the lens of pragmatism rules. We expect to see a greater focus on food categories that offer the ability to plan, but also deliver treat, quality and versatility, such as frozen and ambient grocery. We expect seasonality to play a bigger part within our food lexicon as we connect more closely with domestic supply chains and the associated seasons. Lastly, we expect value, making money go further, and mitigating waste to be at the forefront of consumers' minds. By considering these shifts and how you as a business, brand, startup or entrepreneur pivot and adapt in consideration will mean that you're well positioned to succeed in the next normal as that evolves in food and drink. In episode 4, we'll be looking at the health and wellness megatrend Renew Me through the lens of the COVID-19 pandemic and the longer term shifts that we expect to see manifest. Join our community for the details of episode 4 and all the latest food and drink trends foresight. Visit thefoodpeople.co.uk and complete your details at the footer of the page. So stay safe and thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you in episode 4.